Before you start the stream,
Already did. We're live. Depths of Gaming, episode 47.
hello everybody.
I'm sorry. I hope there's not a bomb you have to go disarm.
No, there's a bomb I have to drop, but I will keep the hatch closed for now.
Just grit, bear it, and then and then hope that when we're talking about Destiny 2, you don't have an accident, because that's what we're talking about first.
I hope I will hope for that. Anyway, so what do we have for today?
We have Destiny 2.
There's no again. Bungie is shitting themselves, I assume.
So they restricted their forum to people that only have the game. So if you're some guy that's like, my friend has to look up some information. I have a forum account. Wait, I can't look in. Why can I not go in the forum? Oh, because you actually have to buy the game in order to read what people are saying about it.
Yeah, these are Bungie. I would understand if the Bungie forums were restricted to only people who bought Bungie games, right?
Yeah.
Like Halo and Destiny 1, Destiny 2, and so on and so forth. But no, they restricted it only to Destiny 2 players. So if you are a Halo fan and you would like to share it on the forums, official Bungie forums, you can't do that. So you probably have to migrate to Reddit and fester there.
Yeah, migrate to Reddit, where the real community apparently is, and that is where you will be able to tell Bungie that they are fart heads.
Now, I'm going to make a prediction. This entire situation is going to create a situation where basically the entire community blows into the Bungie's face, telling them how displeased they are, and then the Bungie will say, we're sorry, we're going to fix it. Because that's exactly the pattern that was been holding up with the entire Destiny 2 thing for since the game launched. The Bungie is fucking up, then the gamers are discovering it, and then they throwing up a shitstorm, and then the Bungie says sorry, and then they backpedal.
Well, the thing about Destiny 2, it was always a promise they could never fulfill. This perfect game that will keep going forever and everyone's going to like it forever. No, give it 5 years, everyone's going to fucking hate it. Because it's going to be
Destiny
the same
1, however,
game over and over again. And they fucked that up. They didn't even do that. They just made a second game that didn't even carry over from the first one.
Yeah, the biggest... there was a big problem with Destiny 1, right? It under-delivered on all the promises. It was basically an average shooter game, right? But with all the additions that they were adding onto the game, at the end of it, it was actually pretty decent game. Not very good, not amazing, but very decent, very playable, very fun. And now with the Destiny 2, they started below even what Destiny 1 started. And that is hitting them. They do not know what they should do. They do not know how to salvage the ship. So they're trying to shut people up so that they can get as much mileage and every single penny they can just to stay afloat.
Absolutely, they're trying. It's more damage control. That's mostly what it is. And they think that no one noticed
Mhm. They're basically saying, "Hey, if you the only way for you to speak up and reach us in any way, shape, or form is only if you buy our loot boxes."
Pretty much, like, it's what we keep saying, which is giant companies built to maintain one game aren't feasible. It's just not possible. So, moving on to our next topic, the Subnautica sound designer has been fired over a handful of tweets that go from offensive to meh to
Ignorant.
meh. Like, here's
Basically, he is hovering between offensive and ignorant.
is this guy Simon Chalinsky was fired, and the tweet that I think was bad was he replied to a conspiracy theorist, Paul Joseph Watson, and the blurb is he is importing random people from third world is also importing third world tier crime rates and IQ. And well, I suppose that's true. When the Puritans got here, they started murdering and pillaging and claiming territory and all sorts of horrible
As per
shit.
European tradition.
Fucking Europeans. Let's send them all back. Every one of them.
Oh god, yeah. I sent you a picture before with basically a guy who was saying that to Indians that they should go back.
Yeah,
Right.
there were Republicans that were legitimately telling a Navajo to go back to where he came from. And then I would imagine he looked down and went, "Okay,
I'm here.
I'm here.
Now get the fuck out of my house."
Like, how stupid do you have to be? But so
Yeah, these people are simply ignorant.
But third world tier crime rates and IQ. Now that's just not how that works. Is
No, it doesn't work like that, because the people that are forcibly imported into your Western civilizations, right? They do not have lesser IQ. They do not have like high crime rates. No, they simply hate you. They want to kill you because you are infidel.
No, there's this crazy myth that people from other countries aren't as good as we are. That's why we want to send them all back to the where they are. And this is all based on a complete misunderstanding of how the world works. You see, there are actually parts of the world that are not like America. And when we send them back, they don't go to their own version of San Francisco where they eat a kale smoothie and go, wow, things didn't work out in America. Where am I going to fuck up next? No, they don't do that. There are mobs, there are mafias. In fact, there was a guy who was saying who was is Mexican, and he's a veteran, and they're saying go back, you have to go back to Mexico. They want to deport him, and he was testifying saying, look, I have military experience. The mafia is going to ask me to work for them or kill me. Don't send me there. And they didn't care. Like,
yeah, because bureaucrats have to have.
This is
because bureaucrats
the thing right now.
Yeah, because bureaucrats have to have their papers checked out, and it's true. there's a lot of problem with migrants, right? There are so many different issues that surround migrant crises. In US has different problems, right? Because you have mostly problems with migrants from Mexico, right? We, on the other hand, in Europe, have problems with migrants from Middle East, like
Yeah.
and North Africa, and that's basically completely different culture. These people do not assimilate, and most importantly, they hate people, right? They have seething hatred of people who do not believe in their God. They might say they don't, right? But in Quran it says that you can freely lie to the kafar, which is the infidel, and you
In
can
the
do
Christian
what you,
Bible, you're
Yeah.
you're supposed to rape people's daughters and then pay their dad to make it all good.
yeah, yeah.
Like
The
there's a lot of
difference is-
crazy shit that these religious
Yes.
books say.
Yes,
Like
but yes, precisely.
you have to
However,
remember, Heath, under your own under this own, like, because their book says this argument, like, we have to disown Christians immediately.
yes.
And I agree with you. Yes, we would.
Listen, I
but-
understand you. Christianity is no better, right?
Yeah.
However, the problem is if you ask, do a survey amongst Muslims across the world, right? 60% of them will tell you that they want to live in a Muslim country, that they want to live by the laws of Sharia, where you should throw gays off the buildings. Right? This is basically they truthfully
and the
will tell you that
majority
they
of
want this.
Americans- The majority of
This is
Americans,
their desire.
the majority of Americans think God is real, yet we voted an
Yeah, but
atheist
they're
draft
not going-
dodger to.
Yeah, but
to
they're not
our-
going to go to war, a religious war with someone and cut off their dicks.
No, we're gonna just bomb them
Yeah,
non-stop
precisely.
for years, like we have been.
Yes,
What do you
precisely.
think we were doing in Afghanistan? What do you think we were doing in Vietnam? What do you think we were doing in any of these fucking countries except for blowing up people that weren't Christian?
You were looking for oil,
Well, that too.
were trying to piss off Russia.
But meanwhile, this fucker got fired for not liking them. Here's the thing about Simon Chilinsky. He's a lot of things. He's a very bad writer. He is ignorant of reality, and he makes very spooky underwater sounds. But he's not a racist.
Very good, spooky underwater sound.
But he's not
He's
a racist.
good at his job. Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a racist, because racists say different shit.
Mm-hmm.
They say much different shit.
Racists will straight out tell you that he wants to kill all black people.
Well, a racist will tell you stuff like, "Better hide that chicken." I heard some hip hop music. Like, they'll say some really mean shit. The worst thing this guy said is that foreigners are bad, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you shouldn't say that, but you have the right to say it.
Yeah. Saying foreigners are bad for the economy is basically a statement of an opinion, not really something racist.
And it's completely wrong, but you have the right to say it.
Yeah, it's fully wrong. It might be wrong. It might not be. There has to be pointed to a study, right?
Let's put it this way, Simon. Do you like eating food? Well, then you should be okay with illegal immigration. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Who do you think picks it, motherfucker? Unless your sister wife does. I have no idea. I just see a bunch of fucking snow in his pictures, so I assume he's from a flyover state, and he just doesn't know better. It's unfortunately true. They just aren't used to having to agree with people.
I guess.
So the meth thing is there was a poll about what gender they identify with, and he said attack helicopter.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a meme used to mock trans people. When I don't think it's a negative connotation because spiritual animalism is a thing. People do that. There are people that think they're furry wolves. Like, I'm willing to suspend disbelief and say, yeah, sure, they're an attack helicopter.
There are like other kin, right?
Yeah, there's like other kin and shit. Yeah. And there are culturally there are cultures that have more than two genders. There's there's only two genders thing is primarily an American cultural thing. There are plenty of there's one culture where androgyny.
I think it predates America, that male female thing.
Well, it's a primarily Abrahamic thing, as I meant to say.
Yeah.
It's very Abrahamic. There are cultures where androgyny men are allowed to actually choose which gender they identify with. And
I believe that in Japan they believe there's like this spiritual belief that everything can have a spirit.
Yeah.
And if it is disrespected, it can turn into a demon.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why they are so. Japanese people tend to be so tidy, because that's the expression of respect to the things that they have.
Oh.
I might be completely wrong and ignorant on that subject.
I mean, it's probably a better explanation than they just like to clean.
Yeah. It's part of their core beliefs, right? And since every object does have a spirit, other can be like reincarnated as that. So they can identify as attack helicopters.
And so the core of why this guy had to get fired is
for political correctness reasons.
Well, no, it's for work environment and for brand environment.
Yeah,
they don't want to get boycotted by the LGBT community. They don't want.
I don't think you can say LGBT.
We're both high on painkillers right now because of life reasons. So we're gonna mutter and stamina right now. Well, if you're a trans person, would you want to work with a guy who's comparing trans people to wanting to be an attack helicopter, or would you want to be a migrant worker and work along someone who is saying that people from your kind of country has a third world tier IQ? Like, it sounds like a meh political correctness thing, but I would argue that no, this is a legitimate issue in this situation.
But on the other hand,
this is a product. Do you want this product to get associated with that worldview? Yes or no?
Well, think about it this way. Do you remember the guy who made the movie about the Ender's Game? Right? Not the movie, the book. Yeah, the book.
Orson Scott Card. He got a lot of shit.
Yeah, he's like a full-on fascist, right?
Yeah, well, he's a full-on. God, I forgot what it was. No, this actually came out when Shadow. I think he was also did Shadow Complex. I have to look this up now so that I have my facts straight.
Oh, you don't have to have your facts straight. Not on this show.
Fake news. It's all fake news. Depths of Gaming. Bigly wrong.
We're having fun. That's what's important.
It's all fake news. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the... Yes, I was correct. He wrote the novel in 20... Whenever Shadow Complex came out, 2009, because Complex came out in 2009, and this bridge was supposed to bridge the novels Empire and Hidden Empire. And Shadow Complex, it was a Metroidvanian kind of game. It was pretty good. It was a good game. But around that time, it came out that he had some questionable beliefs. He is strongly opposed to same-sex marriage, and this led to the film version of Ender's Game getting boycotted quite heavily.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I had a bit of a coughing fit.
And apparently he's a communist.
Oh, yay, communism! Yeah. Fuck Russians.
So he's a Republican, but he's one of those crazy Republicans. And so this is going to unfortunately happen to people every now and then is it comes out that someone works for something and they said something wacky, or they are one of those wacky people and they just don't want to take that heat. So
yeah, the biggest it's an incredibly big problem with the current state of culture at all in general. People are making their own thoughts from their mind public. This is something unthinkable to me, because something that you think now, you will disagree tomorrow, and if you make it public, you will even regret it.
Well, that would be different if he didn't still hold that viewpoint.
Yeah, but still,
this isn't
you
like
should
Chen
not
Huger
make your
it came
thoughts
out 7 years afterwards.
Yeah,
this is
you should. I come from
because the reason he got fired is they had a meeting and they clearly didn't like what he had to say.
I come from a time where making your name public was a no-no. Internet is full of strangers, and you don't want to give them your any identifier of you, so that you do not want to make yourself findable in meat space in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely, because then the corporations can come after you, and the replicants can find you, and it's.
I am
horrible.
more worried about the rapists or child molesters.
I'm sure you're terrified about child molesters right now.
Or mafia.
Mafia child molesters.
No, Russian mafia.
What I said is still correct, but Battle Royale.
No, what you? It would be correct.
We're moving
if I
on,
would
damn
say
it.
Catholic mafia.
We're moving on.
Then the child molesters would make sense.
Fortnite Battle Royale has surpassed PUBG in multi-platform players, not on single platform, but on multi-platform.
So on all platforms together.
Yeah, on the various like consoles and such that you're able to get the game.
So basically, there is like one platform where they are crazy popular, and they are unpopular on every other platform.
Pretty much, like the way I interpret it is maybe they have a huge console following, but no, I think the majority of them are people that just got bored of PUBG.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately going to happen, and people are going to get bored of Fortnite, and then Fortnite's going to go, "What the fuck happened?" So whatever. More features are coming. Blue. Relic Entertainment has decided they're not making any more major expansions or content for the third Dawn of War game.
Huh.
And this just shows that Relic is clearly incapable of keeping their license.
Yeah, they are incapable of giving people what they want, and what they want is to have a city builder in a in a Dawn of War environment in Warhammer 40k universe.
Yes. They want a game that's basically StarCraft but with Warhammer skins. Kind of
Why
like how
StarCraft? Why not Commander and Conquer? Why not Dune? There are so many other strategies that you could have mentioned and not StarCraft.
Alright, then fuck you, Command and Conquer. Everyone wants their fucking Command and Conquer game. They want to build their ore trucks and fucking and you know
Harvest
what?
Tiberium.
Go buy
Forge. Funds.
Go buy Forged Battalion if you want a fucking base building game. That game has base building and it's just like Command and Conquer, but cool. And 3D and with shitty balance. So just like Command and Conquer.
Precisely.
So the thing with the Dawn of War games is past the first one they got very confused in what kind of game they were. Because the first game was a clone of Company of Heroes but with Warhammer skins.
Yeah, it was on the Company of Heroes game engine. They basically were doing a tech demo that they sold.
Yes. So it was a stripped down version of that engine, and people liked the game, so they made a second one. And in the second one, they decided to try something different. For the single player portion of the game, there was a sort of hero mode type deal going where heroes led these squads, and you could upgrade the squads with relics and shit. Mm-hmm. And it was a closer step to what the tabletop game would probably play like in real time. So I liked it, but the multiplayer kept with the base building aesthetic, which I didn't like, because the single player was teaching you to play a completely different game.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very, very poor design. And I didn't even play the third game because right out of the gate, people were getting really infuriated with it because it wasn't a base building game. Because for some reason, when they look at Warhammer, they think base building.
To be fair, Warhammer got into this market, into real-time strategy market, and at that time, there weren't any games that would simulate the Warhammer tabletop experience. So they went with something that was more secure, more familiar to the players. So StarCraft game or Command and Conquer style, right? Where
As
you
they've
build a base.
proven,
Yeah.
war the total war people were more than capable of that.
Hmm.
I mean, now they were. Maybe they did have to give them the time. Who knows?
Hmm.
But moving on, Dawn of War 3 just didn't do well enough, so it's not getting any more content.
Yay.
It happens. Feel Better Games has announced layoffs and a delay of Sunless Skies.
Sunless Skies. That makes me think of Sunless Sea. Is that the same universe?
It's the airship version.
Oh, I see. Because
They're
I
basically
believe
just
that,
making the same game over and over again.
well, they're making new games in the same universe. The last two just happen to be the same game. Which they, to be fair, they should diversify, I think.
And within the month, they're going to have an updated launch schedule. But they've decided that they had to close some stuff down because they were trying to grasp out too far. They released a mobile app for Fallen London. They yanked back some support on other things, and this was just unfortunately bound to happen when an indie company tries to step forward too far. That happened to the people that made Clockwork Empires, is they tried to go too far too fast. Which is quite unfortunate. But that's okay, because we're moving on to answers that nobody wanted. Legend 1021 asks, how do I prepare a D&D match?
Well, you go get yourself a book, you open it up,
A book?
you read it.
Do you get a book?
Bjorky.
Bjork.
Did I went Swedish there?
You went very Scandinavian. I'm pretty sure that in Polish schools someone would have rapped you over the knuckles. It's like, no, say that with more phlegm. So the title makes me look like a new player, which I am not. I've played D&D as a player and have made some matches as a DM, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I've now played several matches and have watched countless tutorials and have seen several matches be played, but I still have no idea how to prepare an official good campaign. As a writer, I thought I should write a script for the episode with pages and pages of details, characters, rooms, and encounters that the players will face. But my friends and people on the internet are saying you shouldn't do that, and says it is basically railroading. If that is not what I should do, then what? How should I first write out a match of D&D?
Well, my advice is you should totally go and write out your an entire script for the entire session. Then, when the session starts and the players make complete and utter shit out of you, hours upon hours of your hard labor, then you will become disgruntled and you will learn to let the entire session evolve naturally to bring fun both to your players and to yourself.
I think you're just setting them up for disaster. I would say, definitely read the Trinity, which would be the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, and the DMG. I would also say read Xanathars, because that has a lot of good information in it too. I like Xanathars because it gives you a really good guide for using traps.
Yeah, there needs to be more traps in players' lives.
Indeed, use more traps.
The best way to stop a party in its tracks is to put a door in front of them. And just like that, for the next 2 hours, the entire session halts to a stop.
Or they get really cocky and just start going through doors, and then curses and shit keep happening. Because in 5e, there's 2 kinds of checks you make for traps. There's Arcanas to check for magical traps, and investigations for mechanical traps.
Oh.
So, you could fuck with people.
So basically what you're saying is, oh, I check for that thief checks for traps. There are no traps. Okay. They open the door and an acid arrow runs into their flies into their faces.
Yeah, suddenly the doorknob casts magic missile.
You said there were no traps.
I said there were no
traps.
Mechanical traps. You found no mechanism.
No, I just said that you didn't find anything.
Yeah, so read the Trinity, and so Yasando, like, when you say write script with pages of details, characters, rooms, and encounters, a lot of that sounds okay. Do that. But be prepared to go off script very quickly at a moment's notice.
Yes, I think it is much more helpful if you write pages upon pages of stuff about the world itself, about the macro stuff.
Yeah, do like world building and shit. Like write down facts, tidbits, and then hide those behind skill checks.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And if you have this like plan of the macro stuff of your world, you will find it's much easier to plot a story in that world, because you will have the names prepared, you will have the kings and their problems and their resources. Some kingdoms may have more magic available to them, so but they are very poor in some menial materials like iron. So it's much easier to get a magical scroll there, but much more difficult to get a good weapon.
Right. So reading the books is important. Watch a lot of fantasy movies. Having a lot of broad knowledge of fantasy and folklore will allow you to whip out a lot of crazy shit on your party.
Do not watch Uwe Boll stuff.
I don't know who that man is. I do, but I'm forcibly not knowing who he is.
Haven't you seen the one of his greatest hits, the Dungeon Siege?
No, I have not seen the masterpiece that is Dungeon Siege. And fuck him for having made that movie. That is our show.
Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time.